topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert Show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from experts on such topics as legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to our experts in community association law, estate planning law, tax relief, Medicare, public insurance adjusters, neuropathy treatment, business brokers, and personal injury law, along with many other topics. Now here's your host for the last 17 years, Steve O.
Florida, welcome to another Ask the Expert Show, where we bring you the greatest experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. I was working on my show today for show prep yesterday, and I got an email from a listener and said, "What is your favorite show?" And I started thinking about it because we do about 25 shows a month. And I started thinking about it, and this morning's show is like my favorite. In fact, it's one of the few shows we allowed to come on not once, but twice a month. I think the topics are so important to what's going on, but this is truly my favorite show. Let me introduce you to our great expert, Ray Farrar of Provise Management Group. Good morning, Ray.
Good morning, Stephen, and another Monday morning. We're in the middle of July. I'm trying to figure out it was just January.
It's amazing how fast time goes by. I got to tell you, were you able to hear my opening?
I did, and thank you very much for those very nice comments.
Oh, good.
I appreciate the compliments.
Well, it's truly deserved, Ray, and I truly love doing the show with you. The only problem is it goes by so fast before we know it, the show's over. But, looking back at all these new people who are joining our show from TikTok, it's amazing, and the likes that we're getting. So if you don't mind, tell people about Provise Management Group.
Sure. Provise Management Group is a 40-year-old financial planning and investment management firm with the emphasis on financial planning. We have offices in Clearwater and Tampa, Florida. And we, of course, do a lot by Zoom. And we have clients in over 30 states, about 1,200 of them. We're managing about $2.1 billion. But we see all of that as a subset of the plan itself. People can be successful without a plan, no doubt, but the odds of being successful and the depth of that success are enhanced by having a plan. Wouldn't think of building a house without drawings, architectural drawings. Wouldn't think about the lawyer going into court, at least I hope not, without a plan to win the case, or a doctor for brain surgery without a plan on what they're going to do. And I think the same thing is true. And as you know, we always offer a complimentary 1-hour consultation directly with me, not one of my associates, but directly with me to our listeners. And I really enjoy talking with folks from around the country. All they have to do is to send an email to info at Provise, PROVISE.com, or faster and better, just give us a call at 1-800-633-3049. That's 800-633-3049, and be happy to set up that 1-hour complimentary consultation.
Ray, I'm going to tell you something. Please don't hold this against me, but there was a guy by the name of Jimmy the Greek, and he was noted for his sports predictions. And a lot of times he was right. And I got to tell you, there's no way anybody in your business can be right 100% of the times. But I got to compliment you, Ray. We talk about things that you're kind of predicting that might happen. I got to tell you, most of the time, Ray, you're right.
Well, it's nice to be right, and I don't mind admitting when I'm wrong. And I suspect that you're referring to my more recent prediction, which I did on our last show, right after SpaceX came out. It came out
Yes.
at $135 a share, and the first trades were done somewhere around $160 a share, and the stock shot up to somewhere in the 225, 230 range at its height. And I said to you and to our audience a couple of weeks ago that my thought is that between now and the end of the year, that SpaceX stock would sell at a price below its initial offering price of $135 a share. And last week, it ended up selling at about $123, $124 a share. The enthusiasm wore off. People began to realize the difficulties that are faced in that business, and the time it's going to take to be successful. And so reality is setting in. And I said, in our opinion, the stock was not worth the $1.7, $1.8 trillion. We said it was probably worth about half that. Still think that's true, and we'll see if the stock begins to reflect that at some point. It's a classic example. A lot of people ask me, why, if you are an insider and the stock goes public, can't you sell right away? Well, the reason is exactly what we've seen with SpaceX. The euphoria kicked the stock up to the 225, 230 level. And if they could have sold then, they would have made a lot of money and become, instant real millionaires with real money in the bank, as opposed to owning the stock. But now it's back down almost, well, it is $100 less than it was just a few weeks ago. So insiders typically have to wait at least 6 months before they're able to sell their shares. There are some limited exceptions to that, but generally that's the case. And you've seen exactly why, given SpaceX. Not going to make any more predictions about it. I'll take my wins and go home.
Hey, Ray, what's going on with oil prices? They're shooting back up again.
Well, shooting up and then the shooting down again this morning. Yes. It just depends on how many missiles get fired, how many times Iran says, well, we're going to walk away from the talks. And then now recently, earlier today, they said that they likely would resume the conversation with us around some type of a peace agreement. And oil is going to continue to vacillate. But I think the worst of the oil shock at this point is behind us, not in front of us. And hopefully the price will come back down to where it was last week and stabilize there in the 70s and high 80s, depending upon what kind of oil you're buying. And it's very possible that it could even slip back into the $60 a barrel if a peace deal is really reached and the Strait of Hormuz is opened. So we'll just have to wait and see, but it's mercurial and it's going to continue as long as we have these up and down movements occurring.
Well, we had 3 or 4 longtime listeners to your show wanting to know if buying oil companies are good right now.
So first of all, I would suggest on a long-term basis, buying energy stocks is generally is generally positive. The things you might want to consider, though, is we're in the early stages of hurricane season, and that can disrupt supplies. It can also ruin equipment, particularly refineries. So it's a very dangerous time for, at least in this part of the world, for energy companies to suffer some fiscal losses. Having said that, on a long-term basis, generally energy companies provide a good dividend for those that need cash flow. So consider that. Consider dollar cost averaging going into the stock. Don't just go out and buy a whole bunch of it today. If you're going to invest, X number of dollars into energy, diversify it into a couple of different companies, dollar cost average your way in, buy small pieces over a period of time. Don't want to single out one company or any one stock, but we are not at a point where we are not going to continue to consume energy and to do so at record levels. So on a long-term basis, I would say the energy sector is a good one.
There's a lot of conversation about changing the way personal consumption expenditures, price index. What are they doing? And just another political trick.
Well, first of all, I don't think it's a political trick. We're talking about the personal consumption expenditure index, the PCE, which is the preferred method to measure inflation by the Fed, as opposed to the consumer price index. It comes as a large bulk, that is everything, and then they have the core PCE, which is excluding food and the energy that we were just talking about. There are refinements that are taking place, as has happened in the past, as things evolve and change, and so I don't feel that there's any political trickery going on here, but people are very sensitive to that, given the current environment. But I don't think the Fed itself would allow it to be changed if they didn't feel that it was important to do so. The net effect is that there will be a little less emphasis placed on software and on hardware for computers. Given all the massive spending that has occurred for data centers, for chips, et cetera, the amount of emphasis that is placed on that sector of the economy is kind of skewing the results. And so there'll be some minor tweaks that will occur. Guess is it'll probably lower the PCE by 1 or 0.2%, not 1 or 2%, but 1 or 0.2%. So you can see it's nothing that is horribly major. In May, which is the last PCE that we had, the total index was about 4.1%. The core was 3.4. So you can see that energy and food had a huge emphasis in that quarter. We should see those numbers come down anyway, because the price of oil has come down since then. And when we get the new numbers, which will be coming out very shortly.
This is from Mike on YouTube. Mike's in Orlando. He wants to know, did I read inflation came down for the first time in the last 6 years? Is that correct?
No, Mike, that's not correct. Over the past 6 years, we've seen inflation go from pre-COVID to something that was right around 2.2%, go as high as 9%, drop back down to something in the the high twos, low threes, and now running, as I just mentioned, somewhere in the upper threes or lower fours, depending upon the measurement that you're looking at. What you did read probably is that this past month there was a slight downturn in prices, and again, primarily related to energy, which we can all enjoy. Although I have to say, I filled up my tank this weekend and for premium gas, and it was $4.79. So prices are back up. And we're going to continue to see that fluctuation, as we talked about earlier in the show, until oil prices stabilize.
Ray, we got to talk about, because it just started July 4th, are the Trump accounts. And this was created about a year ago. Is this a good way for people to save and invest money?
So, Stephen, in the beginning, there was a lot of question about, do these accounts really make sense? And I have to admit that I was a skeptic of them. Okay, another way to save money, but were they really necessary? But having thought about it, I think it is. It could be an unbelievable wealth builder for a lot of people. First of all, every child born between January 1st of 2025 and December 31st of 2028, the government's going to put $1,000 into the pot. The Dells have said they're going to put $250 in for each of those people. The chief operating officer of SpaceX said she was going to put some of her stock into those. But
is that in addition to, Ray?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand, Stephen.
Is that money like Dell's going to be putting in? Is that in addition to what the government's going to be putting in?
That is correct. That is correct.
Okay.
Parents can put in, grandparents, friends, neighbors, relatives, whoever can put in up to $5,000 a year into these accounts. And now these numbers are going to be generic in nature, but they're staggering. If you were to invest $5,000 a year for 17 years from birth until a child turns 18 and invested the money at 7%, at the end of those 17 years, you're going to have somewhere around $220,000 in the account. If you leave that money at the end of 18, that money then goes into a regular IRA account, just like anyone is if you were working. And if you left that money alone and continued to earn 7% on it for another 43 years, it would be worth over $20 million.
Wow.
Now, what we have discovered in thinking about this is that when a child turns 18, they're in their lowest tax bracket ever. And when they take money out of a regular IRA, they have to pay taxes on it. It may be worth considering paying the taxes on it and moving it into a Roth IRA and allowing the money to grow on a tax-free basis. Going forward at that time, it's just another thing to consider. In any event, the world is full of good investment plans. This is another one. Money left alone can be used at retirement, but in it from an IRA, it can also be taken out to help pay for a college education, first home, a number of other exceptions that don't penalize you. So something to be considering as you go forward.
I want to go to Eddie in New York. He's 64 years old, single. He has no heirs. He's about to retire. He wants guaranteed income for the rest of his life because he fears about running out of money. What does he do?
Well, I think it's a fear that everyone has, is no matter how much money they have, that the running out of money rarely happens. What happens is we decrease or change our lifestyle by cutting back on things. But in Eddie's case, he may want to consider purchasing an annuity, and what's called an immediate annuity. And this would then be with an insurance company. So it has some stability behind it, but there's still some risk. If anything were to happen to the insurance company, he could lose his money. So it's only guaranteed by the insurance company. It's not guaranteed like a CD or a treasury bill where it's the full faith and credit of the U.S. government. But by setting up an immediate annuity, they will calculate what is called a single life expectancy and pay him a monthly amount or quarterly amount, depending upon how he wants to do it, for the rest of his life. You want to talk with more than one insurance company to get quotes from them, because they will differ, and they could differ substantially, particularly over time. But that's something that you can consider. So it's a single life expectancy on an immediate annuity that would be probably most appropriate. You might want to not put all of the money into that immediate annuity. You may want to spread it amongst a couple of different companies just to have some diversification, would be number one. And number two, you might want to set aside a little bit of it to have into some type of other investment that might provide some hedge against inflation. So things for you to consider. Most importantly, get together with an insurance expert. Make sure that they disclose the commission and any other penalties or issues that might be involved, although there should not be any penalties in a single premium annuity, other than once you do it, you're pretty much stuck with it.
Ray, how do people reach you?
Folks can reach us, Stephen, one of two ways. You can send us an email at info@provise.com, and that's info@provise, provise.com, or give us a call at 1-800-633-3049. We always offer that 1 hour complimentary consultation with me. And happy to set that up. You can also sign up for our newsletter, which we send out every 2 weeks to folks with our thoughts on the economy, things that are changing in tax law, financial planning ideas that you may want to consider or begin having a discussion around. So again, info@provise.com or 800-633-3049.
Ray's with us twice a month. He'll be back with us the first Monday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Ray, thanks again. We love doing the show with you. And hey, watch out for that storm.
All right. We'll be careful, and you as well. Thanks, Stephen. Have a great week.
Thanks, buddy. That's Ray Ferrara, Provise. We're going to go to a quick break. We'll be right back.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.